What up, dudes and dudettes? This is Lynx here, and I'm a nerd for Jesus, and I love gaming. Well, I'll reverse that. I love Jesus, and I'm a nerd for gaming. How about that? Even better. A new topic today. Basically, upon this week, a new idea or new challenge came to my world of, is it okay to explore the fictional realms of things like D&D, Harry Potter, other places where wizard and witchcraft and things come about, video games being one of them, and is there harm in fictional worlds, because we are right here in the midst of Halloween, and how do Christians and non-Christians, how can they find common ground amidst all those things? So I have some interesting topics. Basically, to start out with, I am a huge cosplay nerd. I enjoy the cosplay, the dressing up. Halloween is a fun day for me because it's one of the few days out of the year where I can dress up in something and not be seemed odd to the rest of the world, or to most of the world, I guess. And really thriving in fictional environments is something that I like to do. God, I will say, definitely use fictional worlds as a way to communicate with me when I was younger. And before I had really a strong understanding of the spiritual life and what it means to have hope and root for good and what good actually means, all those things, which is pretty common through high schoolers and adolescents, is they're still trying to find their place in morality, I guess you want to call it that. But let me focus on something pretty clear, is that there's a lot of books and there's a lot of stuff out there that talk about the concept of magic. And you've probably heard things like the Magic the Gathering, or any video games or stories or fictional worlds where magic is present of some kind. And I'm going to draw on one of my favorite things here, C.S. Lewis, and the Chronicles of Narnia. If you've never read the Chronicles of Narnia or watched the movies, you should. They are wonderful works of fiction, based, and if you've ever seen them, I don't know if you know this, but they are based in very biblical themes. The character of Aslan as Jesus, or God as the messianic character. And in the world of Narnia, there's lots of magic. There's good magic and bad magic. And the concept of this is actually very interesting. Because this topic came up, some people in my life have asked me about how do I navigate, when the Bible it says witchcraft, or when the Bible where it says not to do certain things, especially in terms of having other gods or magic in the context of fictional worlds. So let's break down that term magic real quick. There's a lot of great podcasts and things out there that kind of cover this too, but in the time of the Bible, there's a lot that happened that could not be explained, such as I'll give a really obvious example: Moses parting the Red Sea so that the Israelites could get through, and nothing like that has happened again since then. And it's hard to explain. There's no explanation besides some supernatural force did it, and God did it in the biblical resource. And so magic is just a term we like to use to describe things we cannot see happening, and they are happening, or we cannot see, and how they affect our world. So a lot of people Like the word miracle is another pretty common term that seems to be let go, like separate from the magic. And they're kind of the same thing. If something happens, if one day someone wakes up and they no longer have cancer and they've been struggling with cancer for, most of their life, a lot of people would say it was either a miracle, but really it's magic. Like, if you can't explain it, it's just another form of magic. And all sorts of people everywhere have used the term magic to describe something they cannot see physically or make sense of in the real physical world happening. Like, if you take a cell phone, wow, that was interesting, and you go back like 100 years, everyone would think your cell phone was magic, or a smartphone. So magic is a very subjective term. And the thing I just want to highlight when it comes to Narnia, Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth, things that have to do with any of those topics, magic itself is not bad. Magic is just the word we use, and a lot of Christians will tend to disagree or tend to get a little uncomfortable with the idea of a wizard, such as Gandalf, or a wizard in D&D using powers to do something, and not knowing where the source of that power is coming from. And that is not unbiblical. So it's actually very fascinating to understand like what the actual magic, like if you ever want to do research or understand some things, it's a good idea to actually understand what type of magic or witchcraft or sorcery is actually forbidden in the Bible and which ones aren't. Because like technology in general is feels like magic sometimes. Like Wi-Fi just works. And so all these fictional stories are just ways in which we can make sense of things that can help children especially make sense of the fight of good versus evil in a fictional world, because it's harder to understand that stuff in our physical reality. And there are some books, there are some stories and shows and other fictional worlds that are less good and idolize things that are actually against like biblical Christian practices. There's also some that are just trying to communicate a very good story. So if you're a non-believer and you've ever been ridiculed or judged for watching a show, engaging in a video game, D&D, anything like that, where there is fantasy and magic and things happening in a fictional environment, and you have been judged by Christians or by the church for taking part in those things, I do want to apologize from believers, because that should never happen. If a believer is speaking to another believer and they are experiencing such ridicule, or if they are being critiqued or questioned, that's a different story. But our job, first and foremost, as believers of Jesus, is to accept and love those around us. And especially if something you consider a hobby is watching certain shows that are based in fictional realms or movies and enjoying them. Oh my gosh, wow, that's unfortunate. What an interesting shot. Yeah, Jesus used parables all of the time. aka he used metaphors and symbols to communicate a message. And so the idea of fictional usage of things meaning other things It's almost, if you want to think about this, like encouraged from a biblical perspective. Oh, that's a goal. I want to dial in on a Bible verse that is pretty commonly used for a lot of things, a lot of ridicule, and a lot of non-believers might claim that this is one of the verses that causes them, or situations that causes them, to not follow Jesus anymore, or practice reading the Bible, or church, anything. It's going to be a goal. Nice save. There's a verse in Matthew that specifies if your left arm causes you to sin, chop it off. And the tricky part about that is a lot of people take that very, very literally. And so then they stop following Jesus. They stop believing in anything of the church or organized religion because they, like, this Bible is talking about self-mutilation. If you read the context of what's happening in the book of Matthew and who Jesus is speaking to, and the understanding of the culture of that time and the era and the part of the country that it's happening in, it was very, very common for, if you're caught stealing, to have your arm chopped off, or your hand, or whatever part of you was stealing. And theft happens typically with hands. The tricky part about that is, even though it's a metaphor, like, Jesus is not literally commanding people to chop off their hand or their arm or whatever. It also says that your left eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. Jesus is not telling you literally to cut your eye out. Oh, that's a bummer. The symbology here is that if something in your life is distracting you from being the person you are made to be, like, we'll call this, like, if you're a husband and you are trying to love your partner the best way possible and not commit adultery and all that jazz, but you are looking at images of women on a regular basis, and it's causing you to be tempted to think about those things, and take you away from your partner and taking you down a path that is just not where you're supposed to be in your marriage. You should probably delete that app or change your algorithm on your social media so that you get less of that content, because you know it's not good for you. Like, if you know you have an addiction to sugar, like, you enjoy the sweet tooth things, Halloween is right around the corner. It's good stuff. I admit I do. I enjoy the candy. If you know that sugar is very, very tempting for you, and if it's around you, you can't help but eat it, a good practice, if you're trying to, like, stay on a diet or be healthy or lose weight or whatever, is to not have it around you. Or if you're going to have it around you, do it in very specific ways. Control it. Like, control what's happening in your body, in your mind,